Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and love is in the air, Bradley.
Love is in the air. That's amore.
That's amore. I don't think we've had a podcast on actual Valentine's Day before.
No, I hope in the edit you're putting some Sade on in the background. Is that how you pronounce Sade? Classic. What Valentine's music are you going to be putting on the old gramophone, Johnny?
I don't know. We're having Italian tonight, so whenever we have Italian food, my wife always just asks Google to play Italian restaurant music. So whatever Google picks for that.
Love it. Really setting the ambience of the whole thing.
I want to find like a red and white checked tablecloth maybe.
Lovely.
Have a slightly sweaty, rude waiter.
Like it.
And then drink coffee in the evening and regret it. That's sort of my experience of Italian food in Italy.
Talking about eating at home Valentine's meals, I tried to go to Tesco last night, Johnny, to buy a dine-in for two meal, which normally
you old romantic, you.
I know, right?
Did you say like I'll cook, and then we're watching me and go to Tesco and get a meal deal?
Exactly. Well, we didn't get it in the end because we had a yard sale pizza last night because I said let's do that. I know yesterday wasn't Valentine's Day, today is Valentine's Day. But we went and had Valentine's Day pizza. But tonight I tried to get us a Tesco meal deal, Johnny. The dine-in for two. Normally £12.
Yeah, not the Lucky Saint and a sandwich.
Not the Lucky Saint and a sandwich from last week or the week before. But more Tesco news, Johnny. Tesco now, £18 for the dine-in for two. They're absolutely pulling your pants down for Valentine's Day. That's
you get wine with that, right?
I think you get wine with a normal one. They pretty much run out of wine. Lord. I think they had some rosé, so like non-alcoholic rosé, and they had some Lucky Saint. Shout out Lucky Saint again from Tesco in a meal deal.
Sponsorship or something. They're getting too much now.
They are, aren't they? But then all I could sort of surmise from the difference in the meal deal was you got a starter for six extra English pounds. And the starters were, they had like a sort of tear and share bread, which with some soft cheese, camembert it was actually, that you bake in the oven. Pretty nice, pretty classy. The other alternative, there weren't many there, they kind of sold out. The other alternative, Johnny, for a starter on Valentine's Day, two Scotch eggs.
Wow.
In the Valentine's Tesco finest meal deal. Two golden Scotch eggs.
There's something vaguely euphemistic about that. But that's the only link I can find to what. Yeah, nobody's like, oh, Valentine's Day. Let's break out the old tradition.
Some gassy Scotch eggs and some beers.
Wait,
on Valentine's
what's gassy about a Scotch egg?
Well, Alan Partridge always. There's that joke, isn't there, about him eating Scotch eggs, and it makes him very gassy.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah. They're gassy, mate. If you eat several Scotch eggs, if you eat several boiled eggs, gassy, right?
Brad, it's just occurred to me that, you know, most people we know do listen to this podcast at roughly 5 p.m. on a Friday, and they might be They might be hyping up towards a romantic evening, and now they're going to be thinking as they sit down with their beautiful partner about gassy Scotch eggs and what part of the anatomy I was thinking of when I said it was euphemistic.
Well, yeah. Well, on that news, Johnny, there are lots and lots of Valentine's Day cash grabs. Well, I don't know about cash grabs, but the beer industry has certainly gone in hard this year with producing beers specifically tailored towards Valentine's Day, this very, very special day for lovers. Or maybe if you're drinking to console yourself, potentially. Should I run down some of these offerings from various different people?
I would love to know. Yeah.
So Camden, who we do like their Hell's is good, isn't it? Obviously they're owned by big corporations these days, but nice branding still. Good, one of our strongest brands, I would say, in the UK. Like, a bit like kind of Brooklyn style looking. They've come out with the Lovers Beer Lager 2-can pack, which is it's 2 beers. One's called Beer Lovers, and that's a Hell's Lager. I'm guessing that's their Hell's Lager. And then Lovers Beer, which is a dark lager. And they suggest, so they said they've brewed 2 beers that are meant to be together. Black like a stout, this hoppy dark lager has been brewed with a small amount of hibiscus and dry hop with Mosaic and Idaho 7 for a hoppy and fruity flavour. I know, it sounds quite sexy, doesn't it?
It's 6.3%.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I know, right? It says when mixed... It's gone.
I was just going to say, what? I don't understand the logic there.
I know,
like,
it's pretty
hibiscus
strong,
might have made the beer red, which is Valentine's-y, but it's a dark beer.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a 6.3% dark lager. Does that get you in the mood? I don't know.
Well, they want you to mix it, Johnny. 50-50.
Oh, and then it becomes red.
With their 4.6 Hell's Lager, which then turns it red. It's a match made in Hell's, Johnny.
I'm in. I'm all in.
Kind of cool.
Love this idea.
It's quite good, isn't it?
I mean, probably
Mixing
not that tasty,
lagers.
but conceptually joyous.
Well, we've hung out with Radim from before, like, a hell of a lot, and there is a special pour over in Czech, isn't there, where you mix a dark and a regular.
Well, you don't mix them, do you? You pour them over each other. Yeah,
you pour them over each other, and then you sort of drink. You can sort of drink through them, or you can drink one and then the other. But I guess the gravity would be a bit different. So could you, if you poured incredibly slowly, could you do the same? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we'd need to know the final gravity. And also, with the big difference in ABV, potentially the dark lager would sink to the bottom, whatever happened.
I'm
not quite sure. But then you won't get the lovely red effect either.
No, you wouldn't. But I think that's, as far as, like, conceptually, that's pretty good. You're gonna get a red beer, which is gonna taste. Do you think the hibiscus is gonna come out? I don't know.
Probably not.
With such a big beer, and you're mixing it with just a Hell's as well. Probably a bit lost, but I like the concept. Well done, Camden. It's almost as if you've got a massive marketing budget as you're owned by a giant company. And can come out with cool shit like that.
Yeah, I hope it pans out for you, marketing department. What else have you got?
Talking of marketing departments, Johnny, the Cadbury chocolate empire has gone into full marketing overdrive, right? So I've never seen the Cadbury's website selling... Well, I'm guessing it's Cadbury's website. It's called Cadbury's Gifts Direct. And they're selling the Cadbury's Valentine's Day bars and beers hamper, which is a strong concept for me because I bloody love chocolate. I don't think Cadbury's is necessarily the best, but I do love chocolate. And, Dairy Milk is pretty good, even though they've sort of changed it since it's been American, I think. But you can get... I know, right?
Let's keep
controversial...
the tin hat off, buddy. It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Well, you could get a box with St. Peter's... It's interesting the beers they put in it. They've put a golden ale and they've put best bitter in with Dairy Milk whole nut, Dairy Milk fruit and nut, Bourneville, and a Dairy Milk.
And it's St. Peter's Brewery, which is a very odd fit. Very odd fit.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't. What do you make of it? I like the fact that there's a best bitter in there. I think that's very cool.
I think it's terrible.
Well, I mean, you
I think it's
don't necessarily
awful.
want it with chocolate. That's maybe not the best.
Yeah, I mean, so matching beer with chocolate is notoriously hard, particularly cheap chocolate, because cheap chocolate is incredibly sweet usually.
Yeah.
And then you've got best bitters, which, you know, some of them do have an element of sweetness. And Peter's, in my head, is quite dry. I think what they've tried to do is they've gone, well, fruit and nut and whole nut. You know, there are nutty and fruity sort of dried fruit flavors to best bitters, and they've gone, so that's a lovely match. But in reality, the difference in sugar levels just means that as soon as you've had some chocolate, that beer is going to taste like soda water. It's going to be bitter and bubbly and not much else. So it's a terrible match. But that said, I mean, there are, you know, so over Christmas I started doing and never finished. I actually filmed them all but never put them live because Christmas got hectic. I did film a bunch of shorts about matching celebrations with beer, and I put a Nitro Best Bitter in. I put Anspach and Hobday's Nitro Best Bitter for, oh God, what was it? I think it might have been Snickers, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Sounds about
Snickers, I mean, Snickers is really, really sweet, but I thought the match actually worked relatively well because I think the Nitro suited the texture. You didn't get that, you know, sort of big old carbonation bubbles cutting through the very milky chocolate, and it just perception-wise feels a bit sweeter. A bottled St. Peter's Best Bitter with Cadbury's Dairy Milk is a horrible match. It really is.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's a horrible match after you've eaten your Tesco's dining for two golden Scotch eggs.
Well, you don't need it. You're too full of Scotch eggs and baked camembert.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of love making going on in this household if you've gone to town with these gifts. Talking of maybe not a lot of love making going on, not on the high street, Johnny. A website that I've never bought anything from in my life. They have got a Valentine's craft beer gift lager is the listing, and it's three. I think there's only 3 beers in the box. This is very bad value. It costs £20, and they are they're made by. Actually, I don't even want to name the brewery because it's maybe not fair. I'm not even sure it says who the brewery are. It says sister company, Best of British Beer. Get labeled
that's an online shop.
Yeah. So I can't actually
see.
I can't actually see the brewery. So we're calling it a white label beer, potentially. We don't know what it is. But they're just terrible. They're like really crap Valentine's cards.
Yeah, they do. I'm terrible.
I'm a bit of a cynic. Like, Valentine's Day was invented by the Hallmark card company to essentially, well, I don't know about that, but that's the urban legend that, you know, it's a very cynical marketing day, isn't it? Just to sort of sell some stuff. But yeah, the first label is a heart with admittedly a font that I like on it, but it's a very sort of cheesy font that says "You malt my heart." So it's like they're literally like terrible beer themed Valentine's cards. The next one, Hoppy Valentine's Day, Johnny. Very pink. Lots of little clip art hearts all over this one with some stripy.
Yeah, not classy like the Hoppy Christmas cards we've sent to our Patreons in the past.
Exactly. And then the last one is Ale We Need Is Love. They don't even say what kind of beers these are. I don't think. It just says
from the look of the pour,
yeah.
I would say a slightly oxidized American Pale Ale. It's the style.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best out of all of these.
I like the very first thing it says is includes express delivery, free express delivery. So it's like, this is for people that fucked up, isn't it?
If you've forgotten, this is what your wife wants. If you're an idiot and you've forgotten to buy anything nice for her, send her some white label beers that are going to arrive shaken up and warm. You don't have time to cool down.
Warm beer of ambiguous origin with terrible branding.
It's perfect. It's, you know what? It's even better than buying something on the forecourt of a petrol station, isn't it, Johnny? It's
Yeah.
even better than that. Even less thoughtful than that somehow.
Hmm.
Um, and then my last-ish bit of beer news is I think this is kind of cool, but I never liked these beers particularly. It's from Vault City, who make big crazy beers. They've come out with Valentine's beer called Love Potion, which they are
Oh my
saying
god.
is an aphrodisiac beer, Johnny. It has what does it say? It's a punchy 6.8%. Um, raspberry sour made with pure liquid cacao, and real habanero chilies. Two ingredients said to liven up libidos. And then their founder, Stephen Smith Hay, says Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and we knew some of our clients would be looking to add a little spice to their love life. Chocolate and a kick of chili are a perfect marriage in a sour beer. And it also helps that those ingredients are considered to be aphrodisiacs. Yeah, this is from The Sun, Johnny, so, you know, top reporting here. But what do you think of chocolate chili beers? I'm not a fan, I don't think.
I mean, yeah, I hate chili beer.
Yeah,
But
they're horrible.
what I'm enjoying about this story is that so Vault City is one of those breweries that is much loved by a very particular set of beer geeks, mostly found on Facebook doing video reviews on forums. And I'm absolutely I'm so intrigued to know whether this beer will be picked up by them.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued by this idea of what is mostly a male space on Facebook drinking something called Love Potion, and then everybody watching being like, is that guy's libido up? It's a very weird image that sort of formed in my head. As a recipe, if you like chili beer, chili sour with raspberry and chocolate, I mean, good lord. I think it's probably disgusting.
There's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think chili in beer is like mint in beer, and it shouldn't be in beer. But that's just me. And I think, yeah, I don't want to get heartburn from my beer necessarily.
Well, I mean, to be fair, lots of people don't get heartburn with spicy food, Brad.
No, that's
So,
true. Just
I
us.
think that's just it. I don't get heartburn from spicy food.
Well, I've been. We were in San Francisco. You had to lie down. You had too much stuff going on in your belly.
Well, I suffer
eating.
from terrible IBS.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
I
a
thought it
different
was
part of my
heartburn.
body that struggles. No.
Oh, I thought you had heartburn as well from the hot stuff. The other end. Okay, fair enough.
No.
Fair
Well,
dues.
I used to love, as a young man, I used to love spicy food. And
Yeah.
sadly, the top half of me still does, basically. Again,
Okay.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. So in the short time that I had before this podcast, the only one that I clicked was that one because it made me laugh. And so
Yeah.
I then very quickly did some digging. Rather than read the other things you sent me, I did some digging into whether aphrodisiacs really work.
Oh yeah, I like this. Okay.
And so I found a fairly in-depth article from the BBC
Yeah.
that looked at all of the science around aphrodisiacs. And they kind of bury the lead here. You're about halfway through the article when it finally just says, in fact, no scientific evidence has been found proving that any food heightens sexual arousal or desire.
No way. Really?
So aphrodisiacs, as far as the science is concerned, is nonsense. However,
It's in the mind. Yeah.
there is one exception.
Oh, hello. Is it beer?
Close.
It's not beer, is it? Close. Go on.
Alcohol.
Alcohol. Yeah, well, yeah, we all know that, right?
So
Definitely
a small number of
loosens,
studies has shown that alcohol consumption is linked to arousal, but it also impedes sexual performance. So the only true aphrodisiac that exists in the world also makes it significantly harder, I think, for men and women to perform.
It's a tightrope walk, baby.
Yeah,
You
so
know.
you've got to really balance
Yeah.
your raspberry chocolate and chili sours, people.
Well, that's
if you're
why
looking for a boost.
my Valentine's Day gifting is perfect, because you can team it with some Scotch eggs. You know, just maybe not a whole Scotch egg, just a bit of a Scotch egg, balance out the beer, and then maybe get some chocolate. I think chocolate makes you feel happy for sure, right? That maybe if you Google that, we know that it releases all sorts of happy things in your brain when you eat good chocolate. That's pretty much proven. So maybe if you're feeling happy and a little bit amorous from the chili chocolate sour beer, maybe that's good. How strong is that beer? It's probably quite strong, isn't it?
It's 6 something, I think.
6 something. Okay, that is quite strong, I guess. 6.8. Yeah, that's pretty strong. Well, it's not for me, Johnny, because I reckon it'd give me heartburn with the sour and chili factor, and maybe make me feel a little bit sick as well, because it sounds a bit of a heady combo. So I think that I'm ruling that one out, but I'm keeping a Scotch egg on the side just in case. Yeah.
So is your tip to people this Valentine's Day? Actually, I don't know what I was going to say. Is it a Tesco meal deal? But it's not.
No, it's not a Tesco. Maybe it's snacking, but not eating such a gigantic meal.
Right,
drinking to excess, where you feel like you want to go to sleep.
I think we're showing our age here. Like snack, and go to bed early is they're our top tips.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And they say that romance is dead. Not here on the Friday 5 p.m. podcast.
Right. We've done a whole 20 minutes of Valentine's chat. I think that's pretty good.
Anything to avoid
Valentine's
talking
chat.
about actual beer.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
That's the format.
Well, let's talk about some beer. So I've got one bit of... It's not news. It's an article that's been written. And it's on VinePair, which occasionally does some really great and interesting beer writing. And this article is called "We Are 16 Beer Professionals. What's the most overrated beer style? Brackets 2025." So clearly this is a series that they do where they go out and they ask brewers, I think it is all brewers, basically what they're least looking forward to in 2025 in terms of styles. And I clicked on this purely out of research because I thought this might be interesting for the pod. I assumed it would be a trash article. But actually, there's quite a lot of interesting insight in this article, and I'm going to put a link in the podcast description. I say that most weeks and then forget, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this week. And so basically, it's a list of paragraph quotes from well-regarded brewers around the US as to what they think is overrated, either in terms of like people think it's going to be big and it's not, or people think this is great and I don't agree. And I'll quickly read the list of things, and then I'll dig out the interesting things from it. So from these brewers, they reckon that the most overrated beer styles for 2025 are low-alcohol beer, lagers made with imported malts, niche, celebrity light lagers, wild and sour ales, triple IPAs, hazy IPAs, overhopped IPAs, Czech lagers, get in the bin, lagers generally, over-viscous sours and IPAs, and beers overusing ingredients. So some of those seem a bit vague, but actually they are pretty well explained by the brewers themselves. There's a couple of things where you just go, yes, agreed. Celebrity light lagers in the bin. They're constantly made. They're always terrible. They never work for more than a couple of months. It's a quick cash in. Same with celebrity low alcohol beers, I would imagine. And in general, the point around low alcohol beers, this is from Gary Rogers of True North. He's just saying, he's not saying that NA beer is overrated. He's saying that most NA beers are crap.
Fair.
Which is very, very true. And it's an interesting point that he makes about how, if craft beer is supposed to be about quality, why are we releasing so many terrible low alcohol beers? It's sort of damaging to the industry. Then this is not a brewery I know of. Johnny Iffagan of Nightglow, he talks about, so this was the imported malt lagers. So he's trying to champion American maltsters, which obviously takes on renewed significance with the tariffs, because don't know if you're aware, but it's something like 80% of the malts used in American craft brewing is from Canada.
Yeah, wow, okay.
And Trump,
Tariff
Big
ahoy.
T, has shoved, 25% tariff?
25%, yeah.
So I would imagine the only people, and I'm sure they won't be happy about this, but the only people that might possibly benefit from this is American maltsters, and craft maltsters is really growing in the US and making some beautiful stuff, and maybe it's an opportunity for them. But as a general rule, it's an absolute clusterfuck for American craft brewing, and indeed for Canadian farmers. Celebrity light lagers, that came from Chase Healy of American Solera. We can all agree with that. Heather McReynolds of so she's in sales for Hopsteiner. She says that drinking at home alone is overrated. She's saying get out to the brewery tap rooms or the pubs. She says order a beer style you've never heard of, talk to a stranger, and ask the bartender beer questions when they're not busy. She also says drink beer from a Luca faucet, which is an interesting thing to say because further down, Kyle Volak of Carbon Copy in Philadelphia basically says the Luca faucet is overrated because everyone's just pouring beer through it and claiming it's a Czech beer.
Well, yeah, I can see both sides of that. Maybe if you're drinking something which is a Czech beer, you want to drink it out of a side pour. If you're drinking
something that is brewed with true Czech tradition.
Yeah, sorry, in the style of and true to form, then yes, Luca side pour. If it's a pastry stout, maybe not.
Well, I mean, we've seen it done at Omnipollo.
We have seen it done, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do agree that I think, and it's happened a little bit in the UK as well. I've been fighting this fight to tell people to name their lagers what style of lager they are. Lager is a family, not. Lager is it's a family or a category, not a specific style. But off the back of that, I think some people have labelled their beers incorrectly, so they've called it like a Czech style lager, and it's all German hops, and it isn't decocted, and things like this. Where you're just like, what? In what way is that Czech? And I think a lot of that is being poured through Luca faucets and claimed to be Czech. So I totally agree with that. My absolute favourite one is next. So I'm going to read the full quote and then tell you who it is. So it says, I would have to say wild and sour ales are overrated. First, they take way too much time to make. Imagine how much good beer could have been made in the interim. Second, they're kind of gross. Who really wants to drink something that smells like a goat barn? And third, they cost way too much. Think of all the good beer you could have bought with that $20 you spent on one bottle. And this quote...
Yeah, who's it from?
Comes from Jeffrey Stuffings of Jester King Brewery.
Is he? Well, is he trolling then? Big time.
Yeah, he's trolling. He's definitely trolling.
Wow.
I mean, he's trolling, but it's with some powerful context, which is that due to financial, the financial situation, they had to start making clean beer, and have actually gained a very good reputation for how good their clean beer is. And I think now they sell significantly more clean beer than they do their wild ale. So I think Jeffrey's... I think he's venting and trolling.
Yeah. The double whammy. The double hammer.
Yeah, he completely had me because I was reading through that being like, who is this absolute more... Oh my God, it's Jeffrey Stuffings.
Lol.
So, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. A couple of people said triple IPAs, which...
Yeah, they don't really trouble us over here too much, do they, triple IPAs? But yeah, no, they're a bit too much, aren't they?
They are made, but with our duty rates, they're impossibly expensive to make. Obviously expensive to brew, and then very hard to sell, and super delicate on the shelf. So it's not something that's really taken off in the UK, but it's interesting, particularly given the timing of this, which is about a week before Pliny the Younger comes out. I mean, I'm sure that Daniel from Finback isn't thinking of that beer, because that is famously exceptionally well balanced and beautifully made. But I think there is generally a kind of reaction against hazy IPA and triple IPA being like the most extreme version of that. But also I do think it feeds into this idea of moderation that's spread throughout the industry and culture in general, which is like, why do we feel we need that when there's more balanced, more drinkable and equally interesting flavors that you can get at half that strength?
Yes.
And that's sort of always been my feeling about triple IPA.
I guess I'm a bit agnostic on it, maybe, I don't know. But like, I think it's good that it exists, but I don't need to drink it, maybe. But I like the fact people...
You're glad other people enjoy it?
Yeah. And like once in a while, fun, but also too much, potentially.
Yeah.
Too much fun, Johnny, maybe.
Too much fun. You can have too much of a good thing. As
Yeah.
there's a Spice Girls lyric, isn't there? Too much of something is, I can't remember. Don't know why that came into my head. But the one I wanted to talk about most, which is something that I have, it's an idea that I've flirted with on numerous occasions, and it comes from a brewery that I've never been to, but I absolutely love all the beer that I've ever had from them. That's Burial Beer in Asheville.
Yeah.
So this comes from Doug Reiser, founder and COO, Chief Operating Officer, is that?
Chief Operating Officer, yeah, COO.
Yeah. So he says modern sour ales.
He doesn't like modern sour ales. Oh,
No,
okay.
but let me explain his reasoning. So he says, I can make a case for liking something about any type of fermented malt beverage except non-traditionally soured beer. So I guess he's talking
Quick
about
sours.
Yeah, quick sours, kettle sours. Perhaps my biggest complaint about the style is simply that it derailed the success of traditional wild ales, which when fermented with mixed cultures and aged appropriately in wood are among the most gorgeous beers ever to have been made. Sadly, they come with risk, costs, and storage needs. Jeffrey can tell you about that. And thus bloomed these easy button options, and with them the death of the hard way. Customers no longer want to pay for wild ales when sour beer is so accessible otherwise. And that idea that essentially quick sours killed wild ales is a huge leap, but it's one I think bears discussing and research. In my head, the death of wild ales happened a little bit before the quick sour. Well, no, is that true? Maybe they did coincide. I mean, in America, I think sort of quick sours started to come out partly out of Florida with the Florida Vice and that sort of movement that was in where we went in Tampa Bay, but also across like JW. Oh God, I can't even remember his name now. Wakefield, is it? In Miami. Like these sort of heavily fruited sours coming out of there and some other places. And Brazil as well had its own style of it. And maybe there's a crossover there and they killed each other. I don't know how we could really study that. But it's something I've considered before, and it feels like that could well be what happened.
Yeah.
That if you loved fruited wild ales, it was quicker and cheaper to get these fruited sours.
So it kills it from the perspective of they're cheaper and quicker to make, right? So it's like going back to the comment from your Jester King man, who would want something that's so hard and takes so long to make. But
it removed the challenging element of those beers.
The challenge, I see,
which was Brettanomyces, Acetobacter, these flavors that you don't meet every day, and therefore when you first try it, your palate needs to adjust, and you need to sort of work out whether you like it, I guess.
So they're less complicated as well, aren't they? In terms of how they smell and taste.
Yeah, and in theory, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, does it then kill the artisan?
Interesting.
Slow
I guess you could compare it to cheese, right, Johnny? And you could say, all cheese is nice. We like cheese. But, some of it isn't for everyone. Like the stronger, funkier, moldier cheeses are for more of a kind of developed cheese tasting palate that can appreciate the more kind of farmyard vibes, that all that kind of stuff comes with time. I think there's sort of, you haven't got like a child's palate that just wants white cheddar, which is what they call it in America, isn't it? I don't even know what white cheddar is over here, just like basic cheddar.
We call it block cheddar, so it's not made in the traditional way, the rounds. Yeah, it's quite a good comparison. There's lots of comparisons between the way that cheese has evolved and beer has, because essentially both categories were artisan endeavors, started off in the home, got professionalized by men, had a strong link to religion and monastic communities where they made it, and then the Industrial Revolution and the fridge is invented, and one style comes to dominate because it's easy to make at volume, relatively cheap to make at volume, and relatively unchallenging as a flavour. So cheddar is essentially sort of the macro pilsner of the cheese world. And I think I would imagine if we spoke to Ned Palmer, our good good friend and cheesemonger, he would probably say that cheddar, along with, I think, supermarkets, has sort of nearly killed the British cheese industry, and it's in a similar kind of craft renaissance as beer is. And yeah, it's a good comparison. I think I'd agree with Doug, but I'd be like, research needs to be done, but I think this is probably what happened. And it has always tempered my love of quick sours a little bit, because I've always wished that there was more wild ale being made and that it was more championed and people got more excited about it in the way that they did when we first got into beer. For the first 5 years that we were into beer, wild ales were very cool and exciting, and lots of breweries were founding themselves based almost exclusively off of those styles. And now, well, there's been a little renaissance, I think, of people pushing back against quick sours and going, no, we want this to happen again. But they are, with the exception of Burning Sky, tiny, tiny concerns. And with Burning Sky, 95% of their beer is clean still.
Sorry, that whole time I was just thinking about cheesemongers, because I like the word monger. And then I thought, I wonder if they were beer mongers. And beer mongers is a historical term. It just means someone who sells beer. But I quite like beer mongers.
Glad you listened to my in-depth analysis.
I was listening. Sorry, but we both. I think there is a space, right? Cause it's not like we've gone, oh right, yeah, white cheddar, block cheddar. That's tasty. So we'll just stop making Stilton now, because we've evolved to the point where we can bang out massive lumps of white cheddar.
Well, I mean, that is what most dairies did in the UK.
Yeah, but that also then you get your artisan products that strike up against it, and people will always seek out the best thing, right? You're always going to find people that want the best of anything. So whether that's beer or cheese, you're always going to get the aficionados or wine or whatever that are willing to pay for that taste experience, Johnny, that they can't get from your supermarkets.
But I guess that the point Doug's trying to make is that there's fewer of those people because they haven't had the opportunity to experience, really great cheddar or.
Do we really think though that that's true? Because I think if you're a taste, I was going to say Taste Cadet, which is a YouTube channel, but if you're someone who's truly loves their food and drink, you're gonna seek out new experiences. So I think if you're like that, you're gonna do that anyway. You're not gonna stop at a quick sour or whatever. You're gonna go, well, this is interesting. Where does it come from? Why does it taste like this? Oh, I'm gonna do a bit of research. Oh, right, there is a tradition in Europe, in the lowlands, for Jottenland and all the rest of it, to be making this stuff. I'm interested in it. Maybe I'll order some. That's amazing. I think I don't think
if that theory was right, then wild ale would still be growing, because quick sours would be feeding this incredible revolution of wild ale. Clearly, people stop at the quick sours.
So my theory is that quick sour might be a gateway drug into the wider world.
Yeah,
of beer. But you're saying maybe you just stop it.
It's absolutely not that. We know that as a fact. You don't need to look deep into the data to know that the sale of quick sours in the US within the craft beer bubble is huge.
Yeah,
and the sale of wild ales is both minimal and declining.
Is that a cost? That's got to be a cost factor as well, though, because getting your hands on Belgium wild ale beer is pretty expensive. I imagine.
Lots of American breweries were making it, and lots of them are closed down or have really reduced. I don't think it was you couldn't get hold of it. I mean, it definitely was more expensive, and I think that's a major reason why people.
I'm trying to think of going to Forest and Maine and places like that. They weren't that. No, I don't remember them being more expensive than anything else, to be honest. But
the bottles probably would have been on draft, maybe less so, but. I mean, cost is definitely a factor, but equally, people were paying $8, $9, $10 for cans of 8% quick sours that were half fruit puree.
Yeah.
So it's not always a cost thing. I think I agree with Doug from the point of view that I think that if you don't have the opportunity, if you're not exposed to these wild ales, because there's not as many of them about, because everyone's drinking, it's like it's a vicious circle, you know. The more you're exposed to quick sours and not to wild ales, the less wild ales are made and the less chance you have to be exposed to it. And I think that's probably what's happening. I don't criticize the people that are drinking quick sours. I don't criticize the people that are making the quick sours. I just think that it's an unfortunate side effect of the growth of quick sours that wild ales are less likely to succeed, because they're just slowly squeezed off of the lines and out of the fridges.
Depressing to think about, but yeah, probably correct.
And I have also been reading about how sort of the lambic boom, which was an incredible thing to see. And when I was working at beer merchants, we used to have to put limits on Cantillon, stop people from trading it across to America for cases of hazy beer. That whole obsession with lambic, as far as I can tell, has pretty much gone. It's created a much buzzier scene. It's saved lots of businesses. It's created this remarkable, beautiful lambic brewing scene, and more producers are joining it. But in terms of the international acclaim and excitement and value of these bottles, it's just plateaued, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about as well, isn't it? Because it was super hypey. Now, not super hypey, but still sort of revered, but not like people queuing out the door like they might do on a sneaker drop or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's lost that cachet with the hype kids.
Yeah, I remember when we set up Beer Merchant's Tap, we had to have the lambic fridge behind the bar.
Yeah.
Because not because we thought people would steal it, but because it was one
Chaos.
bottle per person.
Yeah,
you couldn't police that if it was out there. And now I think at Beer Merchant's Tap it is out the front, and nobody has to really worry about it. It definitely does seem to have cooled off, and I think that in part it's the people looking for those kind of flavors. The people looking for fruity sour flavors are having quick sours, and the people that love lambic are not having to sort of panic buy anymore because they can probably get hold of it. And I'm sure there's certain varieties of Driefonteinen and Cantillon that are incredibly sought after and incredibly valuable. But the days of people losing their minds because there's a couple of bottles of Fafoon being sold at a bottle shop is long gone.
Yeah.
Which, maybe better. Maybe it means if you really do want to find it, it's easier.
It's easier to get for the people that appreciate it. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So I thought some of these brewers were making some really interesting points that are well worth digging into and having a read. And at the very least, it's a interesting way of looking at what brewers are thinking about the market at the moment. It's not just people slagging off milkshake IPAs, but there is a bit of that. But it is genuinely, somewhere you can go for insight to see what might be headed your way, and also what has already come your way and is quite crap. Like, I always get excited when I see a Luca tap, but in America I might be a little bit more, might be careful. If I see one, I might check exactly what the recipe and the brewery were, and its relation to actual Czech brewing culture. Right, we've been talking for absolutely ages, 42 minutes, Bradley, without even talking about the main news of this week.
Yep.
Which is the release of the trailer for Keep Cask Alive 2. 3 years after we made the first series, just coming out of lockdown to try and give cask ale a boost and get people back in the pubs. We have finally, the main thing was finding funding and coming up with the concepts, and that's what took the time. And then filming it has taken nearly a year. I have the joy of being able to see, so that the very first shoot day that we had for Keep Cask Alive was the 3rd of July 2024.
Wow.
Was our first shoot. So, by the time this finishes, it'll finish early April. It'll have been nearly a year putting this together.
Blimey.
So yeah, a big old project, and it spiraled from 5 episodes to 7 as that's been going on, and still one episode is up in the air as we try to work out exactly, we've got all the footage and we've got all the points we want to make. How we stitch it together is still up for debate, and we're still working that one through. But the first 3 episodes are basically locked in, and annoyingly the last 2 are also locked in, so we've just got to fill that awkward middle. But yeah, this is just about the most ambitious thing that we've ever done. Not just because it's 7 episodes that are at least half an hour long, it's also the fact that it comes with a campaign to get UNESCO status for Cask Ale, and that starts with getting intangible heritage status recognised by the UK government, which is the point of this sort of series, really, is to create a groundswell of excitement around cask that we're going to hopefully funnel into a petition on the UK government website to get the UK government to recognise it, and that will be launching in earnest next week. And before we dig into everything around that, and also some filming that we've been doing this week for Keep Cask Alive, I should say that if you live in Leeds, Yorkshire, or nearby, on the 19th of February, so that is Wednesday at 6 o'clock, I will be hosting a watch party for the first episode at the Tetley, which is where we filmed the first episode, the first half of the first episode, with the good folks of Kirkstall and indeed the good folks of Timothy Taylor's, who are going to come down from Keighley, and they've already sent a cask of Timothy Taylor's Landlord as well to the Tetley to put on, and then there'll be a Q&A afterwards as well. So it should be a really great, interesting event full of I think the CEO of Timothy Taylor's and the head brewer Andy will be there, as well as Steve Holt, who's in the video, and Chris as well from Kirkstall. Awesome. So it's going to be really good fun. So it's a free event. You just have to buy the beer while you're there, and they do great food there as well. So yeah, from 6 o'clock there'll be drinks, and I'll be there from at least 6, and then the event will finish around about 8:30 after the Q&A.
Amazing.
So yeah, come down. We've had a lovely response to the trailer, haven't we? Lots of people have been waiting for this about as long as we have.
Yeah, it seems that way. I think, we obviously wanted to get this made for a long time. We've kind of wanted to continue the story, but it's such a big, broad subject to cover, and incredibly time-consuming. It takes us all over the UK, and we're yet to go to Belgium as well. But we're sort of it's been all-encompassing, hasn't it, Johnny? That it's so great to sort of bringing it to fruition finally. And I've lost my train of thought, but we got lots of lovely comments. I'm not sure we're going to dive into the comments, are we? But
no, I mean, it's mostly joyous, lovely stories of people's experience of cask and things they've done since that series. Yeah. So lots of people have bought themselves their own beer engines or travelled to Hook Norton. Lots of people seem to have been, and that is the most watched episode of the entire series so far, and lots of people seem to have gone to Hook Norton off the back of that, because it's a truly beautiful place. One of our patrons, got married there, I think, over the summer. I don't know whether we influenced that, or whether that was already planned, but it's that beautiful a place, and you can see that in the video. And quite a bit of footage from the last series has snuck in, because I wanted to make that link. Because the idea is really that you could watch the first season and then just keep on watching into the second season. So I wanted it to feel very much part of the same thing, even down to the music as well. So we've kept that beautiful Allman Brothers style music that everybody loved for the intro, and the same animations as well. So it is supposed to be, it's a bit like Severance, like everyone loved the first season, and then 4 years later, here we are, and they've picked up where they left off with a truly incredible season again. I'm not saying this is as good as Severance, but it is the real ale version of Severance.
You heard it here first, folks. This is good as Severance. I haven't seen Series 2, so no spoilers, please. But yeah, I think it's brilliant. Like you say, it's the most kind of ambitious thing we've ever done, and I can't wait for everyone to see it and be involved in the campaign. Hopefully, we're going to have a process where you'll be able to directly impact this and let the government know that you care about this, and that we should be celebrating, protecting, and championing this great tradition that we have here.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely. And I will say, yes, you can sign the petition, and then at the end of the campaign, we're also going to release a sort of template letter to send to your MP as well, just to sort of back that up. Hopefully, once we've got the 10,000 signatures that we're looking for, we'll then start sending letters to MPs as well. So we'd love your help with that particular element of the campaign as well. So there's lots that you can get involved in as these episodes start to come out. But like we said, we're still filming it. So we've had 2 big old adventures since we last recorded a podcast.
Sure have. And one of them, Johnny. Yeah, go on.
Well, no, you go.
No, I was just going to say, we were just talking about Hook Norton. One of them, the brewery, was actually designed by the same architect, wasn't it, as the guy that did Hook Norton?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so designed by the same person as Hook Norton. Harvey's is an absolutely stunning brewery. Kind of almost like Willy Wonka-esque wonderland. It is just unlike anywhere else on Earth. Like on the inside, it's very different to Hook Norton. Much more condensed. I think they've done a wonderful job of keeping a lot of the original processes alive, even if some of the the mashing vessels are a bit more modern, this kind of thing. And it really does feel, again, like stepping back in time when you walk through those doors, and walking around with Miles, the head brewer and the owner, is just. I mean, the first time I did it was for A Year in Beer when I was researching that book, and I was just like a child, just staring open-mouthed at him as he talked about the history and heritage of British brewing and indeed the brewery. And it was a joyous sort of 2 days we spent there learning about Harvey's, making an episode specifically about Harvey's for later in the year, but also for a very specific episode, which is about, well, this is the episode that we're still trying to nail down the second half of and how we're going to tell this story. But it's essentially the impact that beer can have on local communities is sort of the story. So after we'd filmed at Harvey's and had a wonderful time, we went to a football match, didn't we, Bradley?
We went to my first ever football match. Yeah, it was the Seagulls versus the Chelsea's. I don't know what they're called. What's their pseudonym or whatever you would say?
I don't know, the Blues. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what Chelsea's nickname is.
The Hammers is Arsenal, is it? Are they the Hammers?
No, Jesus. That's
They're
the Gunners,
aren't they? The Gunners. Yeah.
West
Who are the
Ham,
Hammers?
unsurprisingly, are the Hammers.
Okay. Right, there you go. That says how much I know about football, Johnny, right there. Don't even know which one's
that was
which.
a good way of very concisely explaining your knowledge about football.
Yeah.
What did you, I mean, from my impressions of the day, you walked in really not caring about football, but you left really not caring about football even more.
I enjoyed it. Look, I enjoyed it. It was something I've never done before. I've always had this stigma in my head about football, people that like football and being a little bit rough's not the right word, but kind of not my sort of vibe, because I've always dodged it in pubs and everything. I have my friends used to like watching football in pubs, and I'd find it incredibly dull because they wouldn't want to be talking to me and they'd be staring at a screen. So my dad never took me to, or my mum, to a football game or any sports game in my life. So I've never had a love of watching sports. So to me, the experience was like, okay, it's really cold. I'm sat in this stadium. I was watching these little birds that kept flying down into the stadium and then looking really freaked out by the noise and flying back out. So that tells you the sort of way my brain works. I wasn't looking at. I understand there were some good football players there, but I was looking at the nature impact and all this sort of stuff. I was overwhelmed by the noise that the Chelsea fans were making. They were very loud.
They came in good voice, but they were silenced.
They were silenced, mate. We left early to beat the rush, and we ended up not beating the rush because all the Chelsea fans left like half an hour early. Or 20 minutes early.
Yeah, about 20 minutes early, yeah.
But I'm like, I don't understand that either, because if I was an actual fan of something, even if my team were doing badly, I'd be there to support them, because I'd be like, come on, guys, you can do it. But, these fans, a bit turncoat. They'd all left well early, and they were all kind of angry
Man
on the
who
platform.
doesn't like football accuses people who travelled for an
It's
8
just
p.m.
weird.
kickoff from at
Exactly.
least London.
Why leave early,
Calls them
though?
turncoats. Because it's a
I
long
don't
way
know.
back, as I discovered.
It is a long way back,
to
but
London.
I thought football tickets were really expensive, hard to come by, although people on the train were saying, my train afterwards as well, that there were some available tickets left. So
Yeah, it didn't sell that well.
it didn't sell
It was
that
an
well,
FA Cup fourth round game, which against Chelsea, I'd have thought would have sold pretty well.
Yeah.
It was hurt by the fact that next week they're playing Chelsea. So I guess tomorrow maybe they're playing Chelsea in the league as well.
Yeah.
In the same ground. So that was a
Yeah.
bit of a coincidence. But I mean, it was a great game, and
Yeah, it was a good game. I liked the booing. I liked the booing.
Yeah,
in a
you
way.
got involved
That
in the
was funny.
booing, didn't you?
Yeah, it was like a pantomime. I was like, these people are like children. Everyone in the stadium was booing. Well, it turned out to be two players, but one of them in particular, a guy with long hair. I phoned a friend while we were sat there. I got onto my WhatsApp group of some of my friends, Andy and Danny and Owen, and I said, they're all booing the number, I think he was, I can't remember what number he was, 23 or whatever. The number, whatever it was. And I said, why are they all booing this guy? It's like pantomime. And then they came back and said it was someone that had played for Brighton but had left. So they were booing him because of that. But then they also added they sold him for a hell of a lot more than they paid for him. So I thought it was kind of harsh that they were booing this guy.
Yeah, I
He
mean, I don't
doesn't-
know the circumstances of how he left. He might have been like pushing to leave or something like that, which can
Yeah.
make you less popular with the fans. But yeah, generally you should be celebrating a the money you've earned, and b the guy's career. You know, he's at Chelsea, one of the biggest and best football clubs in the UK. I think people should be celebrating that, really. But no shade to Brighton. They were very gracious hosts, both the company and the fans. There was no hooliganism that I saw. Well, there's a little bit down to the station, but I think that was Chelsea fans. And it was, I mean, it's a beautiful stadium. And of course, the reason we were there is because they have Cask Ale served in the stadium. So Harvey's Best. They sell, what did they say? About 8,000 pints if the stadium's full.
Yeah, easily that. I thought they said 16, but maybe I was wrong by that.
No, I don't think it was
Was it?
16.
Okay.
It might
It's a
be
lot of
16
pints.
of because their keg beers are there as well.
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
maybe it was that. But I mean that so the claim that they made was that, you know, for a full game, that makes it essentially the biggest real ale pub in the world. I'm not sure there's
Which-
anywhere else in the country that would be serving 8,000 pints of
I
cask
wouldn't
ale.
argue if, I think that's probably correct. Which is kind of a cool stat, isn't it? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
And,
it is. And so we filmed that, and it was amazing to see. You know, so we spent a little bit of time behind like one of the main bars, right by the turnstile. So the turnstiles opposite the station.
Mm-hmm.
There is a bar just as you go in front of you, and we were behind the bar there filming. And I would say maybe 1 in 3, maybe 1 in 4 of the pints being pulled was a cask ale on that bar.
Not bad. Not bad.
Which is really good going. Like, pubs would kill for that kind of proportion, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Unless they're obviously a real ale specific pub. So it was clearly very popular and people were very excited. It was interesting talking to the brewery, also saying that they saw lots of interest from the visiting fans as well. So the fans were either fans of Harvey's already or wanted to drink the local beer rather than the I think it was Heineken that was sort of the macro beer that was on.
Yeah. No, I did look. I've been a bit dismissive maybe of the football thing, but I had a really good time. I was a little bit cold. That's my own fault. But
yeah, Brad wore a towel basically.
I wore like a towel coat, which I thought was gonna. I don't know why I thought it was gonna be good. It sort of looks like a lumberjack coat, but it's made out of a fucking towel essentially. Sorry for my swears. So I was a bit cold, as I was all the time we were there. But I've just found out, looking through my texts, who this player was. He was the number 3 playing for Chelsea. His name is Cucurella. He's Spanish, and he did play for Brighton. But they sold him for a lot more than they. I still don't know why they were angry with him, but it was hilarious. And there's something catching about people booing. That that everyone we were with
it's all
was
part
laughing.
of the theatre of football. They're
Yeah,
booing,
yeah.
they're cheering, they're singing.
I felt kind of bad
it's
for
all
him,
part
but
of the vibe.
yeah, I liked the eccentrics that were there as well. Like I had a good interaction with these older guys that were wearing how would I describe them? Disco ball flat caps, I guess. Three
Yeah, that's
guys
pretty good.
that like heavily sequined disco ball flat caps. So I saw them walking into the stadium, and I just followed them with my camera at that point from just behind them, getting some, I don't know if it'll make the film, but some B-roll of their disco ball hats. And as they went past, one of them was blowing up a seagull sort of headpiece. Don't know where he got this thing from, but it's pretty magnificent. And I thought, oh my god, my mission tonight is to find him and get him on camera. So as we were hanging out by that bar, Johnny, they were ordering Harvey's at the bar. Pretty amazing. He happened to be a Harvey's man, so I hope he makes the cut. But we've got him just
Dude, he is
shouting. He is the cut. Just shouting at the camera, Harvey's. And I don't know what else he was saying, but it was pretty good.
There was a great moment because I was behind the bar before you were filming the other bar, and I clocked this guy as well with the seagull on his head, and started filming him. And then I looked back at the footage, and I could see you filming him from the other side in my footage. So that one won't make the cut. That will destroy the fourth wall. But yeah, we both clocked him, and we both tried hard to get him, and he was very accommodating once he realised what was going on. I mean, let's be honest, you don't wear a seagull on your hat unless you want attention.
He didn't know what was going on. He said to me, "Where's the photo going?" And I was like, "No, we're making a video." At which point he started singing his Harvey's tune. But the other two weren't drinking Harvey's, unfortunately.
Okay.
He was absolutely loving the Harveys, and I think that was something which I loved when we were in Lewis and Brighton. There was definitely a reverence for the Harveys. Like, people were loving it, and considered themselves Harvey's people, Harvey's men. A few people I talked to were like, "I'm a Harvey's man," which I think is great, right? That's all about the regional pride, and all that kind of stuff is awesome.
Yeah, and we talk about that to quite a bit in the video. The idea that sort of your support for your football team in the UK is actually quite similar to your support for local. Your local beer. And we should say also, we're way over time, so we'll talk about our Birmingham trip next week. But the other thing I wanted to say is that we didn't just go to Brighton Football Club, we also went to Lewis Football Club, which is the first football club to pay its men and its women's teams the same. And it has also this incredible local following. I went for a beer with Emma Inch at Beak that night and was telling her about it. She was like, yeah, we go most weeks to Lewis Football Club and watch, and they serve Harvey's in there as well. And it's this, I was about to say beautiful, that's completely the wrong word. This amazing, historic and atmospheric little football ground that is, one of the most forward-thinking, I would say, small businesses probably in the south of England. Like, they've done some incredible work around equality and equity and diversity, all at a football club, which is, as you said, Bradley, not the expectation you would have had for a football club, I guess.
No, it was definitely an eye-opener.
Yeah, so hopefully we're going to find room to tell that in this piece as well, and if not, it'll definitely be in the Harvey's full piece that will be out in a few months. So yeah, that was last week's adventures. We'll talk about our trip to Birmingham and our interview with the camera chair next week, I think. And obviously we'll be talking about the first episode of Keep Cask Alive and my trip to Leeds as well. So there's lots going on. Having had a quiet start to the year, it's all kicking off in Craft Beer Channel land, and we're very excited to be putting that stuff out there, and I hope it lives up to the hype. I hope it turns out to be a properly poured Czech-inspired beer and not a quick sour smoothie. So nice. It's nearly a callback.
Nice.
But anyway, so if you can make it, do come to the Tetley at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. If not, the video will of course be live at not entirely sure what time I'm going to put it live, because I was going to put it live at 4 p.m. and do a premiere, but I will probably be on a train at that point. So I'm going to work out what time it will go live, but it will be on Wednesday. It is finished, it is uploaded, it is approved, and it is ready to go. So yeah, we'll see you on Wednesday, and of course on Friday for the behind-the-scenes chat. And until then,
love and beer.
Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel, and if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.